Hello everybody, hope you're all doing fantastically well. A little bit of an unexpected video today. We've got loads of content for you ready. I'm sure you're going to be excited. We've got battle lines in person. We've got other bits coming over the weekend. Myself and Jim Bobberooney met up today. If you're not aware of Jim Bobberooney, he appears on the battle lines, and I'm here at my sponsors bar today, Panenka Bar. Make sure you check it out in Sheffield. But I wanted to speak at this moment in time about the multi-club ownership model, and I wanted to speak about the San Francisco 49ers, the record in Scotland. Well, the Record, who report on Scottish affairs and all this sort of stuff, the Daily Record, are pretty spot on when it comes to certain rumours. And they're discussing right now, and it's caused an absolute fuss in the Leeds United space, of the San Francisco 49ers enterprises, led by Parag Marat, taking over Rangers, with the objective of getting Rangers to the pinnacle of Scottish football again, over Celtic. Now, why would this be an attractive move for the enterprises? They're a massive club. Rangers are huge. You know, commercially, it is a completely understandable option as to why you would go for that. The venture makes complete sense. Rangers are an untapped source, very much similar to ourselves in terms of we were an untapped source before the 49ers really came in and started to do things with the club in terms of obviously the structure around the club, the facilities, just an actual framework at the football club, which was nice after Rad Razani's ownership. Rangers feel at this moment in time that they are dwindling, and Celtic are the prosperous club who would just seem to be evolving every single year. It makes complete sense from the 49ers enterprises and Parag's analysis. Now, this is really, really interesting. Now, multi-club ownership can work. The Fenway Sports Group, who are obviously part of Liverpool, you've got the multi-club ownership as well when it comes to the City Group, Man City, amongst many others, New York, Girona, etc. And you've also got the example that a lot of us are using right now when it comes to Marianakis, obviously the Nottingham Forest owner, who has Olympiacos and Nottingham Forest at his disposal. Now, the interesting part of this is this season will be so interesting when it comes to the UEFA ruling, because the UEFA ruling states that you can't be in charge of two teams competing in the same competition. So if Forest were to get into the Champions League and Olympiacos were to get into the Champions League, interesting when it comes to a conflict of interest. Apparently, according to the Record, Nottingham Forest, Rangers, I should say, their objective is obviously to get to the pinnacle of the Scottish division, which means that Rangers, if they were to get there in the short term, which could happen if there was a decent amount of investment, obviously the structure is completely different to that of the Championship in the Premier League up there. That basically means that Rangers, let's say hypothetically, if they were to get up there and compete, which we know the gap is a little bit narrower than what it is in the Premier League, they would get into the Champions League. Obviously, Leeds are not going to get into the Champions League anytime soon, and maybe that is what the 49ers are thinking, but potentially if we went up, could there be a potential that Leeds United, there's a lot of investment into it, and we get into Europe? On the off chance, this would probably never ever happen, but if you look at Nottingham Forest as an example, that happened very quickly. If Leeds were to adopt that model in terms of getting players in, maybe risking it for that reward, could there be a chance of Leeds United getting into Europe a little bit quicker than we imagine? Now, there is multiple advantages and disadvantages here, a conflict of interest. Sometimes there is a moving of goalposts to put a higher valuation on a player, which can be exchanged between the two clubs. This is kind of problematic. Who do you put the advantage towards when it comes to multi-club ownership? When there's a definitive bigger club and a smaller club, it makes a lot of sense. Like right now, for example, when it comes to Marianakis, Olympiacos are the prized cash cow, and then obviously you have Nottingham Forest, who are probably, working beyond expectation right now. There is going to be a point of which we have a conversation of how on earth is this going to work with Marianakis, who's going to, the ownership model, how will this work when if potentially two clubs are in the Champions League at the same point? Obviously, UEFA regulations will dictate this, how this works. But is there a situation right now where the multi-club ownership could genuinely hurt Leeds United? in the next sort of 5 to 6 years. Now, there is, if Leeds are to have a little bit of a random season, and if we do get up to the Premier League and something like this happens, as I keep saying, Marianakis, Nottingham Forest, if that is to happen for Leeds United very quickly, if we invest well, we recruit well, my goodness, and if they're in charge of Rangers at the same time, this is a head screw. Now, I'm not that bothered about the moaning Rangers. I'm not. I think there can be massive advantages when it comes to club liaison. I think that can work really, really well. There can be expertise linked between both clubs as well, and relationships and synergy formed. I don't mind that, to be quite honest with you. The little bit I would probably be worried about would be the focus. You know, if Leeds United we are top of the division right now, we are looking to get into the Premier League, that would be the cash cow, it feels, for the 49ers enterprises ahead of Rangers. It just would be. Whatever you think about Rangers and Leeds, who is the biggest club, Leeds United getting into the Premier League, getting the most money, getting the most sponsorship, the viable revenue would be the 49ers enterprises main focus, whatever happens with Rangers. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. The interesting part of this is Red Bull. Red Bull have come in with commercial interests. They've come in with expertise and advice. That was the whole thing that was spoken about right at the beginning. Now, with them coming in, the interesting part of this right now is they have a multi-club ownership, which has probably been the most controversial of them all when you look at Salzburg and Leipzig. It's now interesting how Parag Marathe and the 49ers enterprises are looking at another club as well as Leeds United. Now, there was rumours at the start that they wanted to emulate the City Group, City, New York, Girona, many others. Obviously, they've got one in Australia as well, haven't they? So yeah, I'm not that concerned by it. I have to say, I'm not that concerned by it, but it does have advantages and disadvantages. I think more the advantages slant on maybe the liaison and the synergy between the two clubs. The disadvantages come between the financial side of it, the focus side of it as well, and potential future issues when it comes to financial fair play, but also, you know, in terms of manipulating transfer fees and issues when it comes to sanctions on that between the both clubs. But there are also further issues if Leeds were to get into the European competition and if Rangers were to be there. You feel like there is less investment needed in Rangers for them to get there in comparison to Leeds United. Now, Leeds are not going to be there in the near future, but as I keep saying, the Nottingham Forest comparison with Marianakis, of which he wouldn't have expected Forest to be in this position, they could potentially get into the Champions League. They could be potentially getting into Europe, of which Olympiacos have been a big part of European football for their entire history, really. So an interesting conversation, everybody. Where do you land on this? Are you happy? Are you upset? I've been tagged in it loads. Are you bothered? Do you care? I'm not really that bothered, to be honest with you. I think multi-club ownership is something that is going to happen with pretty much every single owner. I think that is what's going to happen unless you have a Benham at Brentford or you have a Bloom at Brighton, unless they have clubs that I'm not aware of anyway, that they have a sole focus. But it's idyllic, it's the way to go. But when you get ownership models coming in from afar, they are going to look at multi-club ownership when it comes to revenue for themselves, financial gain, and of course reputation. Guys, interested to hear what you think. Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you in a bit.